I'd love to hear the culture of the Crusaders to allow them to be such a successful sporting team, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts, and your experience, mate. How good's this? We get it straight from the horse's mouth. Success after success.
Yeah, well, I guess the success after success, the first one has to come from somewhere for other success to sort of follow it. And so we were very fortunate in 2017. Like it's not like, well, Crusaders hadn't won a title for, I think it was eight years at the time, but it obviously had a very, very successful history before that, winning multiple titles and three-peats, and then just had a period of not quite jumping that final hurdle. We lost two finals in that time, and kind of almost got there, but not quite. And that wasn't because the team wasn't talented. Some of the best players in the world were in the team at that time. And moving into that, I think there was some real work done in 2016, in sort of the final year with Todd Blackadder coaching, and during that time I was working with Razor with Canterbury, and we'd sort of won 3 NPC titles in 4 years, but that was on the back of they'd won 4 before that, and when I came in, it was trying to help win the 5th, and so there's a different kind of pressure to trying to win your first, trying to win a 5th, or to just not come in and screw it up. So it would probably, some of the things that we'd looked at was, and there's a really good documentary, and I think it's available on YouTube, and they're just chatting to Wayne Smith about when they first sort of the history of the Crusaders, and he talks in that a little bit around when he came in, and there were some fans that would come along to watch the opening band play and then leave when the game started. Like, they didn't have a fan base, and they didn't have a connection, and they got last in their first season, and 6th in mid-table in the second season, and so it wasn't immediate success, but they've kind of looked at what's required to kind of build success here, and it was something that we had to re-look at going into, well, during 2016, but also going into 17, 18, 19, and 2020. I mean, 2020 we won it was COVID affected, so it wasn't real Super Rugby. Real Super Rugby got shut down, and it was the New Zealand only competition, and it was still the only competition available to win, and the team managed to win it, but it kind of counts and kind of doesn't in my mind. But we had to look at, staying at the top was probably the thing, that the mindset they wanted to try to avoid, because you get to the top by trying to get to the top. You don't get to the top by trying to stay there. And so you've kind of got to go back and start the climb again, and enjoy and embrace the climb, not just the top. And so, if you try to just stay and defend the top of the hill, somebody's gonna take you out. But if you see it as every year you're all starting at the bottom, and you've just got to win the race to the top, and that's just the mindset of finding a way to get better a little bit better every day, or a little bit better every week, and that's the mindset. And then if you've got a highly talented team, quite often you'll come out, if you have that mindset and execute that mindset, you'll win more often than not, and it'll be sustainable, and you keep investing it, say, rather than just watering the leaves, watering the roots, you invest into your academy and your pathways, and you keep developing the next group, so that when all the Centurions leave, then you don't have to go back to square one at that point in that time. So if you keep sort of investing in the start, then you have a higher chance of success at the finish, if that kind of makes sense. So that was a real focus. We'd looked at what had won Super Rugby in those years that we hadn't, and some groups were doing things better than what the Crusaders were. The Highlanders had built their sort of one, they call it the 1-39 brotherhood, just this group of players that had formed a family and a culture, and just loved each other, and enjoyed going into battle with each other each week. They won Super Rugby just based on having the culture of a brotherhood between players. And one of the things we looked at, the Hurricanes did better the year that they won it. In the early rounds, people were talking about what poor physical condition they were in, and they lost their first game by 50 odd points or whatever it was against the Brumbies. But what they did was they got better every week. And modern Super Rugby is 20 to 30 weeks long, and so you have to get better every week and be best at the end. And previous Super Rugby that the Crusaders had played in, it was a different model. You 12 teams play each other once, you go into a semi and a final, and so you can afford to, if you're good at there's less time between the start and the end of the competition. So it's more of a sprint, and so it's a different competition like the NPC. So you can afford to approach that differently, and we were probably trying to approach, and we had some really good coaches, but they were involved in very successful Crusader teams, but we were potentially doing some things through those years that we weren't winning that have worked in the past but may not work in the present or the future. And so we really stripped down and tried to change and evolve a lot of those things. And I think a lot of that work started in 2016, and then in 2017 we got to carry that on with a refreshing burst of energy and some young guys that were, at that time you looked at it and thought, oh, that's not a bad team. And if you look back now, you're like, that team was stacked with great players. So
can I ask you though, just on that point, who's a part of those conversations? So obviously you, the coach Scott Razor Robertson, and then are you choosing select players that say, hey, this guy's the captain of the team, this guy's a leader on the field, this guy's a leader off the field, let's get everyone in? Like who literally has those conversations, or who literally had those conversations?
It's generally driven, or head coach driven, and then staff supported and player supported. So you've generally got your head coach and Razor and a leadership group, and then I mean we would always have a theme and an underlying story and a narrative around a campaign. There's a lot of good sort of articles and sharing about now, and I know that's something that Ronan Nagara is doing a great job over at La Rochelle, and there's some really good consultants out there that purely help with theming and narrative and culture now, and that's something that Razor would see the vision, and then we'd have a sort of a mindset group of myself and our analysts and Razor, who would pitch ideas, and he would throw the ideas out there, and we would try to form them down into videos or narratives and storytelling, and that's a real strength of Razor's, is to see the big picture and apply it to a narrative and be able to tell a story with conviction, and everybody believes that we're on that journey and that story and all in it together. And so then you have a handover process where the players start to take over a lot of that, and it gets immersed within your environment and your culture. So it's something that I think we found over in Austin. It's hard to attach an external story and make it your narrative if you don't know who you are yet. And so at the Crusaders, we're really fortunate to have an organisation that knows what it is and how it operates, and have established values and processes and a culture. So when you walk in, you can, like, everyone's got roughly the same words on the wall. All around the world, there's probably 12 interchangeable words of different formats that people are using to describe their culture. But what you actually see
from the Crusaders locker room, mate. Just anyone that's not 100% sure, give me two of them.
The bedrock at Crusaders, which is sort of always up on the wall, like if one is work ethic and the other's honesty. But to have, I think, redefining work ethic was an interesting one. It's not just being the first one in and the last to leave and doing the most stuff. It's making the most of the time you have allocated by being efficient and effective sometimes. So
and then what's one that's on the wall at the Western Force that you've got there now?
Well, we're in a process of reforming that at the moment. So we're building a whole new culture here, which is, so there's a little bit of established stuff from the past, but we've got a young group that's forming its own legacy here now, and there's some good stories of the past that we can lean on. But this group's, we're doing a process with our staff and our management, now led by our head coach Simon Cron, but also with our young leaders and the team, of forming, who are we, what do we stand for, and how do we operate, and how do we see ourselves, and how do you want to be seen by others. And so it's a good work in progress for us at the moment. But as I said, it's something that we found over in Austin, where if you don't know who you are or how you operate, it's hard to attach somebody else's story or narrative to yours if you don't know what yours is. And then it just seems performative or fake, or square peg in a round hole, and it doesn't really drive knowing and belief, because you just don't necessarily see or feel how it fits. And so so that was it. We spent a bit of time in the first year over there just forming what who that team was in Austin and who we represented, and it was people from all over the world there to be involved in this project. And then in the second year, we got to evolve that even more. And so it's been an enjoyable process to be a part of again here at the Force, because it's an organisation that's never seen success or felt success. They've never even made the finals. So our job is to plant the seeds and start to grow the tree that will give the shade for others in the future, and they'll get to enjoy. In the short term, we may get to see some real success out of this process, but in the long term, it should be sustainable either way. So,
That's
so
great to
it's
hear.
a work in progress, but it's good.
Right.
I mean, you should always be doing that anyway. You should, even if it's Crusaders, you shouldn't just walk in and just assume that it's going to continue, because once you stop investing, the place stops growing. And so you may not see the impact of that immediately, but you will see it in the medium to long term, because the success will drop away if you stop investing and if you stop trying to grow.